Hey, good evening. Friday evening, August 13th. We're going to continue looking at Psalm 91 in this middle section. In this morning's video, we talked about the first two verses, which is the first section of the Psalm, and just reminds us that he who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. So here's this tremendous promise of God that we can trust Him. But then we're confronted with the things that the psalmist says, and we have to connect them to reality. God's view of reality, not mine. I'm going to talk specifically about COVID tonight, because I think this psalm specifically applies to that. So read COVID in the background of what I'm reading here. Surely He will save you from the fowler's snare, from the deadly pestilence. He will cover you with His feathers, and under His wings you will find refuge. His faithfulness will be your shield and rampart. You will not fear the terror by night, nor the arrow that flies by day. We don't need to fear COVID. But it's not that COVID won't do damage. Let's continue. You will not fear the terror of the night, or the arrow that flies by day, nor the pestilence that stalks in the darkness, nor the plague that destroys at midday. COVID. 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand, but it will not come near you. You will only observe with your eyes and see the punishment of the wicked. Now wait a minute. What is the psalmist telling us here? Because I know Christians and Christian brothers and sisters who have been taken ill and died from COVID. Is this promise not apply to them? Is this just wishful thinking? Is this kind of just a fairy tale to get us through the hard parts? But he continues, if you make the Most High your dwelling, even the Lord who is my refuge, then no harm will befall you. No disaster will come near you, your tent. For He will command His angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. They will lift up you in their hands, so that you will not strike your foot against a stone. You will tread upon the lion and the cobra, and you will trample the great lion and the serpent. Well, if this applies to COVID, it appears as though the lion of COVID and the serpent of COVID are taking out a lot of people who say they trust God. So how does this all fit? The wicked and the Christian alike are dying because of COVID. Is the psalmist delusional? Is his point here just to make us feel good? Or is there something else at play here? We've got to go back to reality. And the reality is he who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say to the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. That means I look at this world and all the negative things that can happen to it. It doesn't mean I won't get COVID. It doesn't mean I won't get sick and something else will happen to me. It does mean that God will be faithful to me. When I look at 1 Corinthians 15, Paul ends that glorious chapter on the resurrection and redemption, and he says, death, where is your victory? Where is your sting? Death has been swallowed up in victory. And that's what's being talked about here. There are people that we know that will die of COVID. Some are wicked, some are people who are faithful people before God. It doesn't mean that COVID has won. It doesn't mean that the enemy has won. God wins if we take refuge in Him, because there is life after COVID, whether you get sick from it or whether you actually die. That's what 1 Corinthians 15 is saying. See, this psalm is teaching things about from God's perspective. There's nothing random in God's universe. Nothing random at all. COVID is not a surprise to Him. It is what He is bringing about so people will turn to Him and trust Him. So whether you get COVID or not, whether you get sick or not, whether you are hurt or injured or not, whether or not you have cancer, someone close to you dies because of one of these things, it doesn't mean the psalm is invalid. Those things invalidate this psalm, because death has been swallowed up in victory. And God will not let his people be harmed, just as the psalm says, because they will win and they will be with God. Because the basic reality of this world, of this life, is there is more to life than what we're doing right here. There's more to life than the years that I have left. It may not be that many, but there's more to life than all of that. The promise of Psalm 91 is true, and tomorrow morning we'll look at the end of the psalm. But use COVID as an example. All these great blessings of Psalm 91 are true of even those who are struck by COVID, because you will trample, from God's perspective, and in the true reality, which is not more than just what you and I can see, we will trample the lion and the serpent of COVID. And that's our hope for this night. And that's our trust. And that's our faithful God. Thanks so much for being here. And if you haven't subscribed, turn on the post notifications and get these videos coming right to you. Check us out at everydaytalk247.com. Again, thank you so much for being here. And I pray that this night you'll be able to know the security, the beautiful security that Psalm 91 gives, regardless of COVID. You have a great evening. Good night.